Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Hi, welcome to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We have a very important subject today, and it is called hunger and isolation in America. It's kind of weird to hear that in America we can be talking about hunger and isolation. Most people would not think that. I think many people will not believe it, but it does exist. It happens. So we have good guests today, as we always do. And we are going to have two guests that are already connected via phone. So I'm going to wait on the ones here in person just a little bit to take care of those who are on the phone. And let us go first. Let us go first to Paolo Narciso. Paolo Narciso is an interim vice president of programs for AARP Foundation. Paolo, are you on the phone?
I am. Very nice to be here.
Yes. Well, thank you so very much for joining our show, Paolo. I know you're in D.C. You have 411 over there, so thank you so much. And obviously, we would love to have folks in person because this is going through Facebook Live, but it's still good. Would you mind telling us and the audience who are joining today what the AARP Foundation is and what do they do to tackle this issue of hunger and isolation?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. So AARP Foundation is the charitable arm of AARP, and our mission is in tackling senior poverty, and we envision a future without senior poverty. And so we approach the solutions around senior poverty by trying to spark bold, innovative solutions that help older adults build both economic opportunity and social connectedness. Now, when we talk about economic opportunity, as we know, older adults who live in poverty are weighed down by hunger, often by unaffordable or inadequate housing. And so they have to make tough choices about buying groceries, paying the heating bill, or maybe even paying for medication. And then this problem is often compounded by social isolation, which means the older adult loses the support systems that they have, which then puts millions of seniors at risk for preventable health conditions. So our mission at AARP Foundation is to be able to find solutions, both economic opportunity solutions and also ability to create social connections for older adults who are very vulnerable.
Thank you, Paolo. And, you know, I was browsing through the website, and there is a program called, if I remember right, Connect to Affect. Is this a program of the AARP Foundation, and if so, what is it?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So the website is Connect to Affect. It's actually connect to number 2affect.org. And that website features tools and resources to help evaluate whether someone is an isolation risk, and then to reach out to others who may be feeling lonely or disengaged, and find practical ways to reconnect back to the community.
Is this a program that is more online, or does it have a practical implementation on the ground, so to speak?
Yeah, so this particular program is more online, although there are resources that are available for someone on the ground as well. So we'll direct you to resources on the ground as well. But the program is predominantly online.
And you know, I believe as a foundation, obviously, you solicit donations, and people get those solicitations in the mail. I get it via email. I just got one. So when there is catastrophes like the ones in the Carolinas currently, does the foundation also get involved?
Yes, we do. We've actually initiated prior to the hurricane the ability to help out the citizens that were affected in the hurricane in the Carolinas. They're very similar to how we supported the hurricane in Houston and in Puerto Rico, a year ago now. So we were able to do that by putting together emergency kits, and also, as you know, we have had, which we do every year, a summer of service for seniors, where we do meal packs that are meals that are given to local food banks that support the senior community, seniors in a particular community. And so we've done that, obviously, across the United States in 4 cities, culminating with the last meal pack on September 11th. And that effort also supported the people in North Carolina and in South Carolina as well.
Yeah. Paulo, thank you so very much. Just one more question. Where can people go to learn about the foundation and all these programs that you are referring to?
Excellent. So everyone can go to AARPFoundation.org, and you'll hear about our programs focused around economic opportunity, which is everything from creating jobs and entrepreneurship of opportunities, to our food security programs, to programs that help people make communities more affordable and livable, and also helping people through financial challenges, and specifically also around social connectedness and our ability to be able to help not only older volunteers engage in communities, but also identify people who are at risk and to be able to help them be reconnected back to their friends and family in the community.
Paolo Narciso, thank you so very much for joining us today. I hope to meet you soon, one of these days, and do more engagements. I think that information is so valuable. Thank you so very much.
I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. And now let us go real quick to Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown is with the St. Mary's Food Bank. And Jerry, you should be on the phone. Confirm, please. Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you, David. Thanks for having me on.
Perfect. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for joining. Again, we wish that people would join us in person because there's nothing like seeing each other, right? But we understand that you're a busy man, and we appreciate the fact that you can join by phone. Would you tell us your impression, first of all, about this issue of hunger? Because, again, when I came up with this title, In America, I mean, typically you don't want to hear In America. You want to believe that this happens in other countries. What is your impression about this matter of hunger in America?
Oh, I think when I joined St. Mary's Food Bank 10 years ago, my impression of hunger in America was a lot like a lot of people's, in the fact that you saw people homeless on the street, you saw people with signs on the freeway, or people that were wandering in parks and things, and you thought that was kind of where the hunger problem began and ended in America. But there are a lot of people that are living right on the poverty line that have to make choices every day. Am I going to be able to keep my house cool? Am I going to be able to keep my lights on? Am I going to be able to keep gas in my tank? And some of the ways that they're able to do that is by not having enough food to go out and purchase. So the people that need emergency food and the people who rely on food banks like St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix to provide them with some emergency food to get by, there's a large segment of the population that people don't normally think about when it comes to hunger in America. It's not just a question of people who are wandering and starving. It's people that are in their own houses, that are trying to stay in their own houses, that are trying to keep their families fed until they can come up with a better day.
Got it. And can you tell us where does your services go to? I assume that you have to be serving, I want to say millions of people a year. If that's the case, can you kind of relate to us how you implement your services?
Sure. St. Mary's distributed 88 million pounds of food last year, just around the state of Arizona. That translates to about 250,000 meals a day. We are basically everywhere from about the Salt River up north through the rest of Arizona. There are other Feeding America food banks that serve the rest of Arizona. So there's a food bank in every corner of Arizona that serves us. St. Mary's, now in its 50th year, we're the world's first food bank. The entire concept of food banking started here in Phoenix in 1967 with St. Mary's Food Bank. We serve about 3/4 of the state of Arizona, and again, 250,000 meals a day. We do that through a network of about 600 partners that we have dotted all over across the state at about 800 locations, and they receive the food that we give them, and they're able to distribute it on the ground to the folks who need it.
Now, you mentioned Feeding America. Is that a bigger umbrella that you are under?
Correct. That's a network of about 200 food banks across the country, of which there are 4 Feeding America food banks in Arizona. St. Mary's Food Bank, that again serves about 3/4 of the state. You have United Food Bank, which serves the East Valley of Arizona. You have the Tucson Southern Arizona Food Bank, which serves that area. And then down in Yuma, they have their own food bank in the Yuma Food Bank. So you put all of those 4 food banks together, and that covers the entire state of Arizona.
And I assume that from what I'm gathering is that on the one hand, St. Mary's Food Bank distributes food to other food banks, and then
we're kind of the food bank's food bank. You know,
okay.
So if smaller food banks need food, we distribute it out to them. We receive a lot from grocery stores. We rescue from about 300 different grocery stores, whether you're talking about Fry's or Walmart or Albertsons or Safeway. All of the different grocery stores around town. We also receive a lot of food from different warehouses and packing stations. We also receive a lot of food and a lot of monetary donations from the general public. Every dollar we take in at St. Mary's Food Bank, we can provide 7 meals in the community. So that breaks down to about 14 cents a meal. So if you're looking for some place for your donation dollar to go far, just a single dollar can put 7 meals on the table for a family that needs it.
Paint the picture for us, Jerry. An individual is needed. How does that individual approaches your bank or one of the food banks?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first time you come in to St. Mary's or to any of our agency locations and you claim that you need food and that you need a little help at home, no questions asked. We'll provide that food for you. After that first time, we want to get some information on you, an address, a place where we know that the food is going on a specific basis, so we can get you into our database so that we can follow you, so we can make sure that things are going okay for you. And after that, you can come on a regular basis as the food is needed and pick the food up. We have emergency food boxes, which are small cardboard boxes of food. They have about 10 to 12 items in them. It's designed to be a 2 to 3 day supply of food for a family of 4. And we also have that grocery rescue that I talked about before. And that could be anything from ice cream to milk to eggs to meat to whatever it is that we're able to rescue from the grocery rescue. So you put together the emergency food box of canned, non-perishable food, and then you put it together with grocery rescue food, and a family can walk out with a fair amount of food to feed their family for the week.
Jerry, thank you so much. Now, one last thing. Again, these days, everybody's is becoming, internet, an internet user, to say it in one way. And I think everybody's is learning to browse the internet and look for things. How can people find you?
The best place to go is to firstfoodbank.org. And you'll automatically get into St. Mary's Food Bank. And that, if you need food assistance, if you're interested in coming down and volunteering, we talked about senior hunger in the first part of the program. 1 in 7 seniors in Arizona don't know where their next meal is coming from, and sometimes have to choose between food and medication, as your earlier guest was talking about. But we also have opportunities. You were talking about isolation for senior volunteers to come down. We have a group in our Surprise location in Arizona, a group of seniors 60 and older and 70 and older, and they come out and they help make 6,000 sandwiches for school-age kids every day. They get up in the morning. They get together as a group and make all the sandwiches, and then they continue on and have like a coffee group, or some of them go play golf afterwards. So it's a great way to give back to the community and also to immerse yourself back.
Got it. Jerry, thank you so very much for making time to be with us. We hope to do more shows on this at a later time. Perhaps visit you and do some video, Facebook Live with you one of these days. So thanks again, and hope to see you soon.
Good to be with you, David.
All right. Okay, now, before we go on our first break, let me introduce briefly 4 guests that we have in person. Frank Barrios, he's a regular with us now, and he writes an email to me frequently. He says, David, I believe in what you're doing, so anytime you need me, just tell me. And you live real close by, right, Frank?
I do, and I'm the immediate past president of the St. Vincent de Paul for the Phoenix Diocese.
Perfect. And we're going to ask you a few questions about what St. Vincent de Paul does to tackle this issue of hunger and isolation. So, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. And Jesse Ramirez. Jesse Ramirez, he is the founder, actually, president and CEO of Valley View Community Food Bank. And now you're in Peoria, correct?
We are in El Mirage, Surprise, Youngtown, and Sun City, the Sun Cities.
First of all, welcome, Jesse. I know AARP and your food bank did some partnering a few years ago. And,
yes.
And it's been a long time since I saw you. I was glad to see you. Thank you so very much. And we're going to get to ask you a few questions. Okay. So thank you for coming. I know it was at short notice. Actually, I think this week.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's interesting when you're doing a show, you're inviting people, you don't get confirmations, and sometimes you get them all, so you got to take them all, right? So I took 6 of them this time.
Why not?
Why not?
Right.
Yes. And, another issue that we are addressing today is isolation. And, hunger, I think it's easier to kind of put our hands around hunger, but isolation may be a more tricky issue where I was reading that it doesn't necessarily mean loneliness. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are not around people. Right. Sometimes you could be surrounded by people and still be isolated because you don't feel you fit in. So there's this issue of isolation. Let me introduce, and I'm telling you, I hope that many of you who are going to be listening to this show never forget 3 words that starts with the letter A. And sometimes we refer to them as the AAA, even though there's another AAA, right? But right. This is the Area Agency on Aging. Well, we're talking with Marco Mendoza, who is the director of one of the Medicare Benefits program. And we have to do a show on just the Area Agency on Aging because they offer way too many programs and very few people know about them. Mm-hmm. So we already are in the works to do a show like that. So first of all, Catherine, is it
Dwyer?
Yes. Catherine Dwyer, you are with the with the Area Agency on Aging. AmeriCorps is the program?
Yeah, it's actually called, it is part of the AmeriCorps area, and I'm in charge of carrying circles of all of Maricopa County. So I have about 50 AmeriCorps members, and we're recruiting now. We're looking for bilingual people, but we reach out with providing company and finding out about what the seniors need through our 24-hour hotline that has been operating for over 40 years in the Valley. So people call in to us. And yeah. I have to introduce...
Right. Just because we have to go on a short break, let me introduce Michael Sullivan. And let me say a few words because I don't want to cut you off, but I do have to go on a short break. Michael, thank you so very much. Now, you are a hands-on volunteer, I understand?
Semi. I'm one of the AmeriCorps people that Catherine just talked about that goes out and actually meets with some of these older folks.
Right.
We call it older folks helping older folks because we're all over the age of 55, but we're fortunate enough to still have some capacity, so we go out and do the hands-on stuff, which is very rewarding. Not entirely volunteers, but we also like volunteers.
Perfect. We're going to get to the nitty-gritty of your programs and then come back also to what St. Vincent de Paul and the Food Bank does. Stay with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. educate, celebrate, connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection, addressing very important issues, celebrating Hispanic accomplishments, and connecting the community through education. Thank you so very, very much for staying with us. Let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty of these things because, again, we're going to talk a little bit about the isolation piece and what the AmeriCorps does, and then we'll come back to St. Vincent de Paul and the food bank again. The issue of isolation and what the program, again, Caring Circle. So can you explain that program in a little bit more detail, please?
Okay. What we do is we get calls from our 24-hour hotline, and it's one of the oldest hotlines for seniors operating in the country that's operated from our agency. And what we do is we go ahead and we have services that we offer. Our volunteers are AmeriCorps members that go out and reach out to the seniors to find out if they are getting food. Do they have electricity? Are they aware of community resources? Are they aware of opioids? How are they getting to the doctor? How are they picking up their prescriptions? Do they have eyeglasses? All that. And through a Caring Circle member like Michael Sullivan, he goes out to find out what exactly is going on and also creates a relationship to kind of go ahead and deal with the problem of isolation. A lot of the seniors here in Maricopa County, they're alone. A lot of people, a lot of their families are not here anymore. And what we do is we provide that, not only that company, but also the resources and talk about the excellent resources that we do have. We even provide counseling. Michael has some incredible stories of what we do every single day. We're getting about, I don't know how many referrals a day. Our teams are divided into 6 different areas in Maricopa County since it's so massive, and we have about 50 members. We are looking for more bilingual members, but we also have volunteers that work with the AmeriCorps members so that they can have transportation to the doctors. And also even something simple, like, again, one person said that they had Life Alert. However, this was a senior. Yes, it is there in their home, but it's the AmeriCorps member was able to ask, where is it then? How come you're not wearing it? It's like, oh, it's in that box over there. So our AmeriCorps member is able to assemble that, yes, by calling the 1-800 number, but assemble that, see how things are going. We've also had members, for example, that have received food. They know exactly what's in the meal. But our AmeriCorps member will ask, have you eaten that meal? And they may have memorized it, but that's the other question. There's so many different things. Mike,
if I may,
sure.
let me just interject something here because I think it is critical. A lot of times we need to put tools on people's and resources. You are saying that there is a 1-800, is it, a call center number? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
A call center number with the area agencies on aging. I'm going very slow and deliberately saying this because I think it is so critical. If you know somebody out there, if you are that somebody who needs help, who doesn't know how to start, are you saying that this number would be the place to start, Michael?
It is the magic number. If we can't help, we even refer to other agencies. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the first number to call. And that number, because now everybody should have a pencil, is 602-264-HELP. Okay. HELP is 4357 for those of you that don't like that. And if you happen to not have a local phone, which I can't imagine anybody listening here, but we do have an 800 number, which is 888-264-2258.
Now, we're not going to talk about the prescription drug aspect of this program because I met somebody at the Disability Summit or Forum and Expo that we just had with Latino community. We had an expo and a forum, and I met this gentleman. He handles the prescription side of this program. So it has two aspects, right?
Right.
So are you saying that somebody calls that number and then a volunteer will go out and meet that person and do an assessment of the needs?
Right. It's an AmeriCorps member, and I wouldn't say that's necessarily a volunteer. We actually get a small stipend, just being honest. But yes, one of us will go out and meet with that person if they are willing. Ideally, we like to get in. We like to talk to them. We like to look around the house. We like to see what the situation is, because sometimes they're not clear about what their real problem is, or they don't even understand. So by meeting them, by seeing them, we learn a lot, and sometimes we actually can change the idea, the prescription, if you will, of what they need from what they think they need.
Ideally, it would be great for children to take care of parents. I mean, this is the ideal model that we all would dream about.
Right.
These days, things have changed, right? In 21st century life, that doesn't always happen.
Right.
So is this program, I know that the Area Agencies on Aging is a nonprofit. So where does the funding come? Is this a government-initiated program?
I wouldn't say it's government-initiated, but it is mostly government-funded.
Okay.
The AmeriCorps program is a federal and state program, and yes, we are using mostly federal dollars for the direct cost of this program.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we had this kind of program spread all over the country? I mean, and all over the world. I mean, that we would, in places where our neighbors might be in need, we would be so cognizant of it and kind of go in and do either through a program like yours or even indirectly. That would be a dream. I mean, why is this not happening?
Well, I'm sure it's a cost thing, but on the other hand, I think the fact that the government was willing to try this in what is to be a 3-year program is a sign that they are open to considering expanding it. So I think it could go on if we prove that it works. I think there's a good chance that it will go on to other areas. But right now we're just focused on making sure that the seniors in Maricopa County get services that they need in order to stay independent and alive.
Can you relate, Catherine was saying about experiences that you have encountered, just one, maybe two? I mean,
sure.
What sort of experiences or cases do you find when you go out and visit people?
Well, I find that a lot of folks get confused. For example, food is a big issue. We find that food is available. Folks can't always get it because they don't know how to go out and pick it up. And it can be complex, and even applying for food, if it's online, a lot of seniors don't like to do things online. But even when they get it, I had one client, for example, who finally did get home meal delivery, and I thought everything was taken care of until I realized that he was giving most of it to his dog because his dog was his friend and his companion, and he didn't have enough money for dog food, so he was feeding his food to the dog. So then the issue became, how do we get dog food? So it's that sort of thing that comes up where if you don't get in and actually visit them, you really don't know what's going on and you can't really deal with the real problem.
What's the satisfaction like when you do this kind of work?
It is remarkable when you leave somebody's home and you say, they're probably going to be so much happier. They just told me how much happier they're going to be for months just because of this one simple little thing I did. Putting them in touch with a food bank, putting them in touch with a company that will provide rides to a doctor, putting them in touch with a volunteer who will come and sit with them for an hour every week, and talk with them. Sometimes that's all they want and all they need is just that kind of human exposure. So it is terribly satisfying, and frankly, it's the reason you do it. It obviously isn't the money, but it's a wonderfully satisfying thing, and I would recommend to any senior who is looking for something meaningful to do, that you consider this as an activity. Call the agency and say you're interested in being an AmeriCorps member and helping out. Find there's not a whole lot of heavy lifting.
And this is, again, the Area Agencies on Aging.
Area Agency on Aging.
Now, this is
Thank you, David.
The agency, the regions, right? Because we are in Region 1. Right. The regions are linked somehow to the Older American Act, right?
There are over 1,100, area agencies on aging. We're the biggest one in Maricopa. It's divided by county, right. So we're the biggest one because of the largest population. So, but it is a whole nationwide activity, and at the same time, we're all dealing with it with different issues. And again, the Caring Circles part of AmeriCorps is the second year. And again, it's essential, and it's incredible because it's hands-on. and working with the people that definitely need this, and also, quite honestly, creating relationships
Right.
and through the community.
You know, because of time, let's now move to Jesse. You off the air, you told me that you know Yolanda Soto from
Yes.
Borderlands Produce Rescue.
Yes.
My question to you before we go to your food bank: do you know that industry that she is the CEO of? What she does?
I know of that, yes.
Just to do a little bit of justice, Yolanda Soto was supposed to be with us today, and she got stuck in traffic, and she had to return.
Yeah.
She was coming from Nogales. Would you mind sharing just maybe for a minute at most, what is the Borderlands Produce Rescue?
Yeah, the Borderlands Produce Rescue is an awesome program. They're able to distribute throughout the state of Arizona. Yolanda does an awesome job out there. For many, many years, she's been heading that in a way where other programs can't function. And with her being able to head that off into the parts of Arizona where we're not getting any produce is just amazing. And she's done an awesome job with that.
So how do they get the produce, the rescuing part?
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about the rescuing of this produce?
What I know more of it is that when produce is picked and it's put into the warehousing, and there's a time period where it needs to be moved, and then they'll call it like seconds, and their job is to make sure that it gets out to places like Yolanda where they can rescue the produce as much as they can, and she does the distributing.
Now, this produce is really good and healthy, right?
Yes.
Because I understand that in many instances it comes from Mexico to be sold here. Maybe it doesn't get sold, and then they used to basically dump it, right?
They used to dump it.
And that's why that rescue concept comes from.
Yeah, they used to dump it, and it does come from Mexico, the majority of it, and is in good hands, I'll tell you. They do a great job.
I've been in that in Borderlands, and they have a ton of vegetables, really, really good.
Yes.
And she's all into healthy eating.
Yeah.
You know? She makes it a big point about healthy eating.
Eating healthier.
Yes, yes. So that's really good. We are about to go on our last break, and let me see. We have about 45 seconds. Frank, would you mind starting, and then we'll focus on the last segment on your food bank. St. Vincent de Paul, what is the St. Vincent de Paul does to tackle these issues?
Well, first of all, we're a Catholic lay organization. We're not under the bishop. We have a separate organization. We're a worldwide organization. Our presidency for the United States, St. Louis, Missouri, and our presidency for the entire world is in Paris, France. So we're very, very large, but we do operate and help and assist within the Diocese of Phoenix, which includes Flagstaff, Kingman, Lake Havasu. It's a large area. And we're the largest St. Vincent de Paul in the United States.
Let me interrupt you, and when we come back, I'm still going to give you some time to tell us a little bit about how you actually implement programs in the community.
Yes.
Stay with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today, hunger and isolation in America. I am your host, David Parra. I forgot to say that earlier, but I think you already know. So anyhow, thank you. Frank, let's come back just for a minute or two more. St. Vincent de Paul in the sphere of hunger. What do they do?
Well, we're primarily known for feeding the poor and hungry people. We have 5 dining rooms within the Diocese of Phoenix, and we also provide food and financial assistance out through each of the Catholic churches within the diocese. So there's like 90 some, and we're almost in every Catholic church where we provide, there's a St. Vincent de Paul, we provide a food box, and if they need financial assistance. And I might add, it's very important to have that home visit because you just need to visit the people to know what their problems are. And last year in 2017, we served through food boxes and our dining hall more than 10 million people. Not people, 10 million meals. And we also have a medical clinic and a dental clinic. And last year we provided medical and dental assistance to over 16,000 people.
Wow.
And we also have a temporary housing facility for people that are over 50. And in fact, we just finished a brand new structure to house them. And then we, let's see, we have 17 thrift stores within the diocese also. We do everything. In fact, there's a saying with St. Vincent de Paul, no act of charity is foreign to St. Vincent de Paul. Whatever we can do to help the poor, we do that. And we've been very successful. We get just a tiny bit of federal money. Almost all of it is support from corporations. And like I said, we've been very successful here in Phoenix. The numbers speak for themselves.
Thank you, Frank. Now let's come back to Jesse Ramirez. And Jesse, I would like to ask you, before we go into your very specific food bank, can you somehow help us understand this industry, this concept of the food banks, just kind of like the infrastructure, if you can briefly do that?
Sure. The food banks are designed to make sure that when somebody's down to their last penny, or they need an emergency where they have a car that needs to be repaired, and they don't have enough for food, gets into their budget, we're there immediately to help them out. The food bank industry is big, and it's probably one of the best programs in the United States, especially here in Arizona, where we have one of the biggest food banks, which is St. Mary's, and then we have a lot of food pantries throughout the valley, over 600-700 food pantries that help out places where like in Cache and in places where they need extra help and stuff. So the way it's set up is, if there's any stores like grocery stores that are needing to move some of their product that they can't sell, it'll be donated to the food bank, and they get a nice tax write-off with that.
Okay.
So
that's
good.
how the government kind of helps them.
That's how they help them. Yes.
Yeah. So now this food is still good, right?
It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the one thing that I kind of perceive in Yolanda's is the health. The healthy,
yes.
And a lot of times when you go to food banks, well, you get a little bit of everything, and not everything is healthy.
Yeah.
Is that a concern or not?
It is a big concern. Okay. A lot of food banks depend on giving out shelf-stable food, which is not the healthiest food around, but it lasts longer in people's shelves and stuff, so they can make meals out of it. The healthy alternative is to get more produce in and get the rice and pasta and beans that are better for people than having it all full of sodium and like giving out canned food. Our main program at the food bank is the staple foods that we give out, and that would be produce, that would be meats, and it would be pasta, beans, rice in bulk, and cereal. So that way they can make great meals out of all that. We shy away a little bit from the canned food and stuff like that because it is not healthy for these people who really can't afford to go and buy that extra stuff like the produce.
I had the privilege of being fed by my mother, and then my wife worked for a few years and then stayed home and took care of the kids and me. So having somebody to cook healthy is the greatest thing on
Yes,
earth.
yes.
But even still, about 20 years ago, I started paying more attention to consumption of sugars and salts. I want to come back to this point again. How much of a concern is it that, yes, it is free food, but the healthy element of it?
It's a big concern because the industry, the food industry, is loaded with sugars and stuff that are put into food, and when it doesn't sell, it's going to go to food banks. And there's an abundance of that food, like breads and things like that are full of sugar, canned food, and
You mean sweet breads?
Any
Or
kind of
any
bread,
kind
yeah. And we get that in, and because there's an abundance, and we never turn anything away, more goes out to the people that are in need. However, we let them know that if we get the healthier things like the grains and stuff like that, we'll help them out immediately with that. Because there's a lot of people that come in that are diabetic 1, diabetic 2. We want to gear that food box to their specifics.
So are you saying that when you do registration or, when people provide some information, you learn that somebody's diabetic, then that totally changes
It
what
totally
you offer
changes.
to them?
Yes, it does. We want to make sure that they get the healthier food, that they get more protein, and they're able to utilize it. We build our food boxes according to the size and need of families. Instead of doing any pre-packed food boxes, we know exactly what's in those food boxes, so that way it travels along from us picking up the donations all the way down to the people that are receiving it to their table, that they're getting what they like. Yeah.
Frank, going back to you just a little bit, I assume that when these events take place where food is offered to those that need it, I'm sure you've been in those kind of events. If you have, what is the impression that you have when you see the people there?
Well, we're part of CAS, has a homeless shelter in Phoenix, and we have a feeding center there, and the vast majority are homeless people that go there. But at our Watkins Center in South Phoenix, we have a very large feeding center there, and the vast majority are families, children. In fact, we even have areas where after they eat, the children can play, and we feed them. We have a world-renowned cook that cooks for us. And the other thing I might add, you're talking about healthy food. St. Vincent de Paul just got a huge grant, and what we've done is started urban agriculture, where we grow our own crops. We grow them, and we process them, and we feed people directly from the plants that we're growing.
When you say feed people, it gives me the impression that you cook the meals for them?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
I think the number I mentioned was we served 10,000 meals. 10 million meals in 1917, and we have 5 dining halls. But what we do in the where the churches are, they call a number. We go to their home and bring them a food box, and then they may say, "Well, we also need help with rent or utilities," and we help with that. And I think last year, I'm going to guess at it, but it was way over $1 million that we paid on electric bills. Great. And for people, I always think that we ought to get a better deal, because I don't think anybody out there is paying $1 million for electricity.
Again, I have to say that there are just so many good things happening, good services, but a lot of times navigating the systems are very, very difficult. That's why this number, to me, I'm not saying that that's the solution for everything, but I think this is in the right direction of having almost like an all-inclusive number. Can you relate a little bit more about this resource guide and the number?
Let's see. We also, it's actually the Area Agency on Aging also publishes a resource guide for all of Maricopa County. And it's basically, it has to do with even talking about healthy eating. We offer classes on that. We have educational classes on exercise for seniors. We offer all of that. But at the same time, it's the Area Agency on Aging, we provide that information. But we also, yes, we do have a resource guide that is available, and it's through our number, right, Michael? Okay.
And once again, I feel like we're repeating too much here, but 602-264-HELP. And that's if you need help, but it's also if you're willing to offer help. Again, we always need more people to do it, and we just as soon have your time as your money. It might take your money, but we really like to have people who are willing to help.
Now, this book do you think this book goes more to agencies or to the user, so to speak?
Before I started my job, I was using this as the top resource to get help for my with my 91-year-old father. Let's see, this is before Caring Circles. It's one of the best resource guides I've ever seen.
Is this online? I assume there's an online version of it. I think so. I believe I did a little bit of browsing this morning, and I think, and it should. I mean, because it would be too expensive to if an order of millions came your way, it would be too expensive. So I'm sure they probably already produced it electronically.
You can find all the resources online. Part of our problem is we know that a lot of people aren't able to do online stuff. They either find it too complex, too difficult, they don't have a computer.
Right.
Sometimes there are language issues. So for us, it's really important to have that personal contact. And I find that I spend more time using this guide myself to help people than I do giving it to people to help themselves.
Right. Let us conclude the show. We have about a minute. Just your final thoughts. This is hunger and isolation. It's real in America. Just 10 seconds. What would be a final thought?
I think it's growing. It's not a problem that's becoming less. And I think the Bible talked about the hunger will always be with you, and the poor will always be with you. But it in Phoenix is growing at a huge number, and we always like to think that there are rich people coming in, but there's also a large number of very poor people that need assistance, and the problem is getting larger, and help is needed everywhere. We all need volunteers, all the organizations that are here, to help meet that increasing poverty line, and it's coming from all places, and we need to do something.
Yeah, sorry we ran out of time. Thank you so very much to each of you who joined our show, and thank you for joining us well. Join us next week. This was AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Have a great day.